What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Technology cars of C7 generation are built on the MLB platform, common for all Audi of this period. Audi A4 B8, A58T, A8D4, Q58R, as well as Porsche Macan and other cars of the concern are based on it. It is a modular matrix platform and, like MQB, it scales very well. The body of the cars is steel, but aluminum is widely used in the exterior panels, only the roof and rear fenders are steel. The front suspension cups and bumper inserts are also made of aluminum. But spars, cabin cage and door frames are steel. And high-strength steels are widely used on the most loaded at-impact elements in front door apertures, in sill reinforcements, floor, and center tunnel crossbars. The body was originally designed for all-wheel drive versions. Since the C6 generation, front and all-wheel drive cars have exactly the same body panels and the body of the front-wheel drive car differs only in the absence of the PDO shaft support and some parts of the equipment in the form of a fuel tank and rear subframe. The car is extremely rich in electronics and the degree of integration of onboard electronics is very high. Almost all equipment which was put on cars with MLB platform, including air suspension, is available for A6. But the rear axle thruster suspension is available only for Q7 and is widely found only on MLB Evo platform, on which the next generation of A6 is created. There are no special surprises with motors and boxes. Gasoline inline 4s belong to the EA888 Gen 2-3 lineup, while diesels belong to the EA189 and EA288 lines. Petrol V6s are EA837, and after restyling the car received significantly updated motors, diesel V6 EA897 and 897 Evo. The most powerful motors are the supercharged V8s of the EA824 family. All units are found on other models of the concern, and EA824 is rather a Porsche motor, which Audi borrowed, as it turned out to be very successful. The drive of the A6 C7 could be front-wheel drive or permanent full quattro, the gearboxes, MKP on the simplest variants with front-wheel drive, although on cars with a 3-liter diesel engine it could be combined with all-wheel drive, Multitronic variator of the second generation for front-wheel drive cars, and 7-speed robots for most of the rest. In a pair to motors with torque more than 600 Nm, these are the most powerful variants of diesel and RS6 put 8-speed automatic transmission ZF. Suspensions of A6 C7 both in front and behind are always multilink. The front suspension was significantly updated for the first time since 1994, all levers here are new, rear suspension is also new. In general, the design of this generation of A6 has been maximally updated due to unification of all models on a single platform. The automobile became noticeably larger, more comfortable and received all modern possibilities in the part of service electronics. Timeline December 1, 2010. Audi A6 C7 is presented to the public at the Detroit Auto Show. April 1, 2011. Sales start. Engines only V6, 2 gasoline, 2.8 FSI, 204 horsepower and 3.0 TFSI compressor at 300 horsepower, and diesel 3.0 TDI in versions with 204 and 245 horsepower. All models except the 2.8 FS have all-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive model is equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission or variator. All-wheel drive models are equipped with a new 7-speed pre-selective gearbox S-tronic DL501. September 2011. Start of sales of cars with station wagon body. October 2011. Production of versions with simpler engines began. The versions with 2-liter petrol TFSI and diesel with 2-liter engine power, 180 and 177 horsepower, became available. Cars with these units are available only with front-wheel drive. In the lineup of 3-liter diesels there is a version with an output of 313 horsepower, which is available only with all-wheel drive and 8-speed automatic transmission ZF. January 2012. Renewal of 3.0 TFSI engines, the power of which has increased to 310 horsepower. A hybrid with a 2.0 engine and an additional 54 horsepower electric motor is also introduced. Hybrid is available only with front-wheel drive and 8-speed automatic transmission ZF. May 2012. Appearance of the S6 version with a 4.0 TSI 420 horsepower motor. On these cars only all-wheel drive and 7-speed pre-selective robot. February 2013. Release of A6 version with 4.0 TSI 560 horsepower engine. There is also only all-wheel drive, but the gearbox is different, 8-speed automatic transmission ZF. Fall 2013. Appearance of the younger version with a 2-liter turbo diesel with an output of 136 horsepower, October 2014. Model facelift. New headlights, new bumpers, new dashboard, new MMI system. Interesting new options include matrix LED headlights. The engine lineup has been seriously revised. The 1.8 TSI gasoline engine with an output of 190 horsepower has appeared. The 2.0 TSI engine now has an output of 249 HP. The 2.8 FSI engine is excluded from the lineup. 4-cylinder motors received a new automatic transmission, 7-speed lightweight robot Series DL382 and in front-wheel drive. An all-wheel drive version. The cars can be equipped with all-wheel drive and pre-selective automatic transmission. The 3.0 TSI engine has been significantly updated and now has an output of 333 horsepower. The S6 version gets a 450 horsepower motor. All diesel engines in connection with the Dieselgate received significant updates, and all old ones receive new firmware with reduced traction and economy, but without tabs. 2-liter diesel engines of new generation EA288 with completely new injection equipment and new cylinder heads with dual circuit cooling in 150 and 190 horsepower variants appeared. The 3.0 TDI motors have also been updated to the EA897 Evo generation and receive redesigned fuel equipment, turbos, and are available in 218, 272, and 320 horsepower variants. The 320 horsepower version is equipped with an 8-speed automatic transmission, while the others are equipped with a 7-speed pre-selective robot. October 2015. Release of the weakest version of 3.0 TDI with an output of 190 horsepower. A6 version with an output of 605 horsepower becomes available. May 2018. End of production. Body. Exterior panels. If you carefully read the introductory part, the one where I talked about body materials, you will immediately realize that you can only look for rust on a couple of panels on the outside. And it is necessary to look for it there, because rear wings and roof of the car sometimes make owners happy with rust spots. And, unpleasantly, it does not depend on the age of the car. The copies after restyling can also have damage to the paintwork on the arches and the front edge of the roof, as well as cars of the first years of release. However, in early cars the area of damage on the rear arch can be much larger, and the damage itself does not remain in the form of small chips and swellings along the edge of the arch, but spreads under the rear wing and under the sill plate. On the roof only the very edge above the glass suffers, because Audi decided not to spend on molding. And it is good that there is a whole roof canvas without grooves and recesses, which would suffer due to violations of sealing seams. Aluminum panels suffer minimally from corrosion, but still grey spots near the door handles, on the bottoms of the doors, on the arches of the front fenders, above the license plate hood and along the edge of the hood. This is, in fact, aluminum corrosion. It occurs mainly due to the use of unsuitable detergents or simply a complete unwillingness to maintain the paintwork. In addition, the gaps between the panels are minimal, and in case of ice formation, the edges of the panels are not only scratched, but also crumpled. Otherwise, any problems with the body are connected exclusively with the consequences of road accidents. Aluminum panels are thin and very easily crumpled, and to them the restoration without painting helps much worse than in the case of steel parts. Unsuccessful painting in the case of aluminum is not only very poor adhesion, but also interesting processes with swelling of the ground layer and similar troubles. Aluminum still requires a much higher skill level of the painter than he usually has. From below, since the base of the body is steel, there are no too unexpected surprises here. Like all modern VAG cars with thin paintwork, the new A6 rusts little by little. Already on 5-year-olds you can find corrosion points on the arches, and if you remove the lockers of the rear arches and underbody panels, you will be surprised at the amount of rust found. The situation will be better in the front arches. Here is an aluminum cup, and the steel spar is covered with a layer of sealant at the joint. The small mud pocket at the rear of the arch does not cause any particular problems yet, but over time the lower wing mount may deteriorate. The rear arches are noticeably worse. The inner arch flange is rusting, and the upper part of the arch is where the pneumatic tubes and the wiring to the controlled shock absorbers are located. Behind them there are usually pockets of corrosion on the inner mudguard too. There are almost certainly red marks near the seams of the shock absorber support as well. The rust is usually shallow, thanks to the galvanizing, but it is there. The reason it's there is because the locker here is felt. It muffles noise very well, but in the conditions of Moscow, St. Petersburg or any large northern city, the locker will be constantly wet from fall to summer. There is a similar problem with underbody panels, which are made of fiber material similar to felt. Noise insulation is good with it, but the steel bottom panels have a hard time. The panels are not covered with bituminous compounds, and they are protected only by a small layer of sealant. All unventilated recesses, especially those where something is located, e.g. next to the fuel tank, filter, behind the fuel and brake line guards, rust very intensively. On 5-year-old cars of normal street storage, there is already quite a bit of rust. Sure, it's just a nuisance, but it's a long way from holes. Unfortunately, underbody stripping is long and expensive, and in most cases the owner will not bother with it. Simple pouring with preserving compound, most likely, will not help, and in addition, the aluminum car syndrome works. Owners ignore anti-corrosion on principle, as in the case with Land Rover, for example. And they are sure that if there is aluminum on the outside of the body, nothing terrible will happen to the car. Since at purchase you are unlikely to be given to disassemble all the underbody panels, just inspect the spare wheel niche from the outside. It's usually in slightly better condition than the felt-covered underbody panels. It doesn't hurt to check the overmotor recess drains. They traditionally for Audi have a tendency to clogging, which is not very terrible for the body, but unpleasant for electronics and interior. There is usually no water in the trunk recesses of the A6 C7, but it won't hurt to check this place. Body equipment. I'll tell you right away, the main complaint of all A6 owners is not the quality of equipment, but the cost of parts. But it is still possible to find constructive punctures. So, it is very easy to damage headlights. It is enough to slam the hood harder, and optics can lose tightness. What can you do? The gaps are small, and the hood buffers are soft. Factory hood hinges are very delicate, and Chinese hinges are designed for a completely different hood, Chinese, with a different distance between the attachment points. The handles of the keyless access system can be considered expendable, and the GPS antenna on the roof dies with time. External review mirrors very rarely have problems with photochromes, and very often, with a mechanism of folding, they are turned out. The button of opening the trunk at mileage over 100,000 is often depressurized and fails. Optics is a separate headache of owners. The simplest one fails simply and boringly. Front headlights suffer from sandblasting, lens burns out. But since there are standard daytime running lights, after 5 years of operation, the lenses can still be quite working. But the garland of DHO sometimes goes out. In the rear lights of sedans, water and oxidized power board are regularly found. There is usually nothing to repair, the lamp has to be replaced. Matrix LED headlights appeared on the restyling. The first generation design still costs more than 100,000 rubles apiece, and it cannot be said that it is absolutely reliable. Therein the fan fails, and the controller in case of water ingress dies, and LEDs fail, usually in summer. In general, these headlights shine perfectly, but if the car is older than 5 years, it is often cheaper to recapitalize the engine than to restore the headlight. By the way, their light itself is weaker than conventional xenon, so that not always the matrix light in our conditions has an unambiguous advantage over the usual dumb. Keep in mind that the equipment of cars in general is very expensive. There are expensive round-view cameras and motor-driven trunk and removable tow bar and parktronics and active radiator louvers and many other components. In general, there are no mass failures at the moment, but any traces of body repairs should lead you to the idea of a thorough check of all systems, because the restoration of a slightly scratched car from the auction shows that the price of body work is often less than the price of buying even a second-hand set of damaged electronics. Otherwise, no special problems have been noticed in the cars so far. Still, the average age is not even 10 years, and German quality in case of Audi is not an empty sound. Detail original price of non-original 2 body front headlight, Xenon 71 543 depot 29 638 Hella 14 632 front headlight, matrix light 204 518 Polcar 206 820 Hella 176 268 windshield 69 687 KMK 9 309 Lemson 5 589 front fender 33 177 API 14 569 TYG 9 840 front bumper 67 412 Dokar 7 295 Cyanida 13 180 hood 115 347 API 41 420 TYG 15 990 steel interior. The interior of the A6 is excellent, and in the C7 generation it is perfectly equipped with all new technologies. MMI Touch, MIB2 screen, digital dashboard, multi-zone climate control, and all the features of modern premium have been organically integrated into it. And yes, there is more space than in long wheelbase A8 of the first generation. Quality of finishing is above all praises, but there are some nuances. For example, metallization looks great, but a thin layer of foil lags behind the surface. The problem is especially actual in the frame of door cards, where chrome is touched by hands and where water often gets on it. And also on the majority of cars the plug of the backlight brightness adjustment knob is lost. If the owner did not ride with rings or claws and did not weigh more than 120 kilograms, the seats and steering wheel will hold up to at least 200,000 mileage. And the texture of the steering wheel is very smooth from the factory, so that the mileage is felt rather weakly. However, owners of the last generation note that materials became more kurzweil, but in general against the background of classmates it is not very noticeable. From important features of a body it is necessary to note that the rear seat on sedans is not folded and a hatch for transportation of long dimensions on A6 from the last generation was in the form of an option, that is, not on all cars. Surprisingly, but with mileage just above 100,000 kilometers, there are regular problems with the heater fan bearings. Bearings are ball bearings, sealed, but they do not withstand our dust. Their replacement is not very difficult, but many people to increase the resource of the fan put pre-filter of the climate system to reduce pollution of the fan cavity. The system with a panoramic sunroof is extremely capricious. Its breakdowns are much more common than in cars with a conventional sunroof. And, unpleasantly, it often ends up with flooded floors. The main problem with climatics is damper failures, which is usually cured by adaptation and sometimes by replacing them. There are practically no problems with air conditioner and heater here except that antifreeze supply quick connectors are prone to leaks. However, as well as the whole cooling system, it is necessary to leave the description of possibilities of the dashboard, multimedia system and various variants of failures of onboard systems, which indirectly refer to the interior systems, outside the limits of the brief story. Displays, buttons, switches, touchpad, touch interface form a whole ecosystem with very complex connections and rich possibilities of settings, updates, as well as glitches and failures. The customization possibilities of the machine are slightly out of the story. If briefly, it is possible to put a colored dashboard, door panels and central tunnel with illumination, several variants of seats. It is possible to choose dozens of variants of interior trimming, several variants of steering wheels and so on. In a word, the interior of A6 C7, as well as its electronics, is a real constructor for people with imagination. Electrics. The component protection system was introduced on the last generation of the A6 and it is a very important factor in increasing the cost of maintenance. Let me remind you the essence of the system. Blocks are tied to each other, and you can change a block for a second-hand one only by untying it at the dealer. In fact, of course, not only at the dealer, the system has long been hacked, but in most cases, the law-abiding owner still has to Go to the official dealer, prove the legality of the origin of spare parts and pay more than 15,000 rubles for the work of an electrician to bind the block. All this greatly complicates maintenance and modernization of aged machines. With all reliability and stability of onboard electronics of this generation of cars, the need to replace the blocks still sometimes arises. There are a lot of blocks, more than 30, and almost half of them are protected by components. The blocks themselves are more reliable than in C6 generation, but there are chances to get stuck with a non-working car in the middle of nowhere, where there is no specialist. And you'll have to get to the dealer by tow truck. On the other hand, it has a very reliable immobilizer, no problems with the steering column unit and other units potentially preventing the engine from starting. From the real failures it is possible to note an unsuccessful braid of a front parktronic, which has a couple of problem places, delicate corrugation of a trunk wiring and leakage of many external blocks, from an antenna to parktronic and door handles. Once again I will remind about headlights and trunk button, after which it will become clear that operation of A6 in rainy regions was obviously not envisaged. Intermediate result no matter how it is, but the very German quality in Audi A6 C7 is still there. Most of all owners of these cars today occupy questions of upgrade of salon and its electronics, and there are no serious problems here yet. Yes, sometimes it is necessary to paint an arch or to replace something in optics, but it is not too difficult, though not always cheap. And whether everything is as cloudless with motors and boxes, we will tell you about it in part 2 of this review. In conclusion, the Audi A6 C7 stands out as a remarkable choice for those seeking a reliable luxury vehicle. With its impressive mileage, nearly rust-free body, and dependable electrical systems, this model offers both durability and comfort. Whether you're considering it for daily commuting or long-distance travel, the A6 C7 proves to be a solid investment that combines performance with longevity. Thank you for watching, and we hope this insight helps you in your car buying journey.